Go. Today I am talking to my friend Chris Zankowicz, who is in Canada. And as you know, these calls are me talking to people who I actually like in this industry, who are good, honorable people doing good stuff, whose values, vibe with mine. And yeah, Chris is just one of those people. And Chris is doing a lot of interesting stuff, being very, very successful the last couple of years, doing crazy growth for businesses on their back end through email. And I wanted to have him on to just sort of talk about his thoughts, his philosophy, his approach to marketing. And Chris, why don't you just tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, for sure, man. Love the intro. I'm, happy to be chatting with you. I like chatting with you too. I think we vibe on a lot of the same things. So yeah, like little background of me. I am from Canada. Been doing like the whole marketing thing for around 3 years now. Currently, I'm a CMO for an Amazon FBA brand, and then have a couple like email list management clients as well that I serve and have served for some time. But yeah, like I kind of got into this space after getting into the online kind of like setting and sales space. Like I remember when I was, just broke and looking to make extra money. It was those like high ticket closer Dan Lok ads that kind of caught my attention, went down that rabbit hole. And then eventually one thing led to another, got more into copy, and kind of here I am today. So,
Awesome. So you've preempted my first question, which
oh,
was
okay.
which was when exactly did you first type how to make money online into Google?
Oh, that's man. Cause like we've all done it, right? I mean,
Oh,
for
for
me,
sure.
oh, I must have done it, but I was just like, I think I was doing a mix of that. And then, yeah, like it was back in 2018, like newlywed. So just got married and, had a lot of wedding expenses. I didn't have the stablest job because I was like, hey, you know what? I want to just go and because I just got out of school. I want to make a splash into like the real world. And I chose like a commission only sales job selling like telecom services, like, like phones, headsets, and internet to businesses. Did not do well, like made like 20 grand the first year. And then, I like literally I remember looking at my credit card statement was max, line of credit was max, and I saw an ad for a local guru. So like I'm in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Saw an ad with a guy with a rented Lamborghini. Didn't know it was rented at the time, and he was saying like, if you can sell, which I could sell, I can help you sell stuff online and make your 5-10K a month. Swiped up, had a phone call, paid the last like drop of credit I had on a really crazy payment plan, and then my first 30 days with them made a few grand, and that kind of spiraled into a bunch of stuff later on, like in the sales world, and then got into the marketing world. So yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy how many people have that similar story of like, they really have their back to the wall when they get into things. But another thing that I think that a lot matches up with a lot of people I've met in this business is that they did something selling offline first. So they kind of had a
Yeah.
taste for selling before they even got into doing it with words.
Yeah, I think that's pretty common, right? They know that they have some skills that can work, and they're like, oh, like you can just go into this online magical world and do things faster, simpler, and from anywhere in the world, and then that kind of appeals to them. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So you first get the local guru, work with him, make a little bit of money. What happens next?
Yeah, like I mean that first month, I pretty much made like twice as much what I was making from my. I switched to a commission only sales job back to a salaried job just for safety and peace of mind because I was just like freaking out like crazy, and so I pretty much like doubled my income in the first 30 days. The second month with him was good, and then like it just really dropped off, and I went back into this like search phase of like how do I've tasted success, right, and I was working my ass off, but like this is not consistent. Some things where he's doing some shady stuff. I just that there's not enough leads to close. And then I got connected. You might have actually heard of Moose Reed.
Know the name, don't know him personally.
Yeah, like he was a big sales recruiter. He's still kind of in the online selling space for a great company now, like as a sales manager. But got connected with him, saw him like posting a lot of Facebook groups, and then he just got me doing appointment setting because I was doing kind of like closing and setting. Then he went, he transitioned me from into an appointment setting role with an amazing company, Alaric Heck Ad Outreach, the YouTube ads guy, and
Oh
grew a
yeah.
lot there, learned a lot of stuff, had great mentors. Like they were very closely mentored by Traffic and Funnels. So all of their like philosophy, mindset stuff, and like literally how to sell, how to set, and even some of the marketing stuff, I got to be kind of indoctrinated in their process over
And
the
that's
time that I was
that's a
with them.
straight line from like Sam Ovens, Traffic and Funnels, and Alaric is was one of Traffic and Funnels guys. Is that right?
Yeah, like he was like one of their students, one of their paying clients type deal. Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
So for those who don't understand, explain the difference between like being a salesperson and being an appointment setter. What's the split
Yeah.
in responsibilities? How does it work?
Yeah, great call. So like being a salesperson, like a closer, high ticket closer is what they're called, remote closer. You're just taking like warm pre-qualified leads and trying to sell them a high ticket program, typically something like 3,000 upwards to, 25, 50 grand, the ones that exist. And then appointment setting is being the guy before people get to that that closer, right? So like leads come into a funnel, you chat with them over even a quick phone calls, what I was doing sometimes, or over Facebook Messenger, and just setting them to have a sales call with the closer to be closed.
Okay. So
Yeah.
what sort of skills do you need to be a good setter? Because I know that about you, that you are particularly good at this, better than other people, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'd say the first thing is just hard work. Like I was working really, really hard. Like, and I was at first when I started working for Alaric, I was getting off of my salary telecom job and working like, pretty much every spare hour that I had. So just like working a lot, having a lot of conversations, hitting the phones, not being able to to get rejected. I think that's like just like thick skin and hard work. And then if you were to boil it down to like a general one, just like empathy, like literally caring for the other person. John, like you're very good at this, right? And all your marketing content, and all your conversations, like people always get the vibe that you really care. And I think if you have that energy in a setting conversation and it's driving towards some outcome of like how can we solve this problem you're going through, I think you can be very, very good.
Yeah. If you make it clear to people that you're only going to sell them something if it's actually something that's going to be useful and suitable for them, and that you
Yeah.
won't sell to them if it's not fit, and they
Yeah.
believe you, then there's a lot of trust, and it's that much easier to get the sale if it is a fit.
Yeah, 100%. Like, because some of what I do in like my CMO role is work closely with our setters to make like just like aside from a data check, like, hey, how are the leads this week type stuff, but also like looking at their conversations. They're a team of killers right now, but some of the new setters we've tried on, they are hard workers, but then they're just out there to sell, right? Like I've reviewed conversations where someone shares something very personal that they're going through, right? Like whether it's a B2B offer, a B2C offer, and they just go, okay, cool. Like how serious about like getting your online income up and running are you? It's like, no, like they just told you something personal, like relate to them, have empathy, be a human being. And then if it makes sense, and only if it makes sense, like transition to like, hey, well, would you want help with that, for example?
Yeah. Yeah. So like my wife just left me and my dog died. That's great. I can put you on a payment plan.
Talk to our closer today. Yeah. Like, no, buddy. Yeah.
But
That
after
happens.
setting, you then decided that you were going to focus on copy for a while. So how did you get from one place to another?
Yeah, so like the story of it, how it happened is, and I don't remember exactly if it was from Alaric or someone else on the team at Ad Outreach, but we had in our CRM, we had a bunch of leads that were just like they got missed. It was like several thousand that just weren't being touched, and so we needed to get them back, like on the phone, talking to setters, talking to closers, so we can monetize our pipeline. And obviously, even with like the great setters we had, we couldn't all reach out to them. It's not inefficient. So basically, I was like, okay, well, let me try an email campaign. And then I sent some emails and then got good responses. And some of those people eventually closed. And I was like, oh man, this is so cool. Like just the words I wrote in the email got the sales or the setting team and sales team a bunch of great leads that they could qualify and close. Right. And that
Mm-hmm.
kind of like I was already curious about copywriting because, we were selling at Ad Outreach was, like marketing services, right? Like writing copy on YouTube ad scripts and having people buy programs. And like, so I was just like, wow, like this is crazy that we can sell something just like this. And then it was crazy that I could use my words to get people to buy stuff, right? And then from there, yeah, do you have a question or?
Yeah, I do. Did you
Yeah,
actually have like any copywriting experience at that point? Did you go and read some books? Did you go and study some copy, or were you just studying what was going on around you?
I was just like studying what was going around, like on around me. Like I was very curious about it because I was kind of like, you know what? I at the time I thought I was gonna, eventually graduate to become a closer. But then once I saw inside how like an amazing team like Alaric's operated, I was like, you know what, this actually isn't for me. Like I love closers, I love what they do, and there's nothing wrong with selling or closing, but I was like, oh, this just it doesn't vibe with me like I thought it would. And then so I was just curious and taking all that marketing information in. And like the first few campaigns I sent to this list, like they just seemed to work and it seemed fun and it seemed easy for me. So
Awesome. So what did you do from there? How did you get from there then to making copy your main thing?
yeah, so I talked to people in the team, just picked their brain, got, asked some questions, and then I was like, you know what? Like I did this once with this list. I just want to I just wanted to know if I could make this work on other people's lists. I wasn't like concerned about like making money, making 10 grand a month or something like that. I was like, I just want to know if this is gonna actually work. And then so thankfully, like I was very connected in that space because you're messaging all these people doing what you do. One of my good buddies who I used to, do like door-to-door sales with, he started his own coaching business. He was running ads. He was doing like a classic Facebook group kind of marketing strategy. And I basically was like, hey man, I just did this, for our sales team. Could you give me your list? Could I email them? Could I do stuff and just try it out? You have to pay me. Like maybe one day you could, but I just want to try it out. He agreed. It was
Nice.
no risk to him. And I don't know exactly the timeline, but I think like I imagine in the first month of me writing emails, I got one sale for him, which for his list size, what he was spending on ads, like that was good. It was like proof of concept. And
Mm-hmm.
then what happened from there is his mentor was reading his emails and was like, hey man, like this is some really good copy. Like who's right? Is this you writing them or like who's writing them? And it kind of snowballed from there. My buddy connected me with his mentor, and then his mentor became my first paying client. And then, I did good work for him and kind of got referred out to other people in his network.
I love it. So one thing you
Yeah.
just said there was you went to your buddy who's got the coaching business. And this is important because this is a thing that comes up quite often with people I
Yeah.
talk to. And you offered to work for free, which is okay. It's good. It can work in certain circumstances, but you did it
Yeah.
in the right way. You didn't say,
Yeah.
hey, bro, I want to work for you for free, because that sucks for the person on the other end because they're like, oh, now I have to think about something to do, something to give you to do. It's
Yeah.
like it's such a shitty offer from their perspective because it's just more mental bandwidth that they don't have to give. Whereas you approach them and said, hey, I've got this thing I want to do. Can I try it for you? So you had a
Yeah.
plan. You approach him with a plan, something you could do, and then it's easy for him to say, yeah, why not? Roll the dice. It's not costing me anything. It's like
Yeah.
it completely changes the perspective on that situation.
100%. Yeah. And I think I'm sure we'll probably go this direction, but that's probably what a lot of, potential clients just really need, right? Not just their credibility, but just like what's the actual plan here? Like, sure, you're going to give me this service, but like, what's the outcome of that plan? So yeah, I think, yeah, it was a no brainer, no risk. And, he was a friend, so it was super easy, but yeah, I was like, hey, I did this. I want to see if it works. No risk to you. Let me take this off your plate. And, hopefully we make some money together. So
It's just such a simple little thing, but it's a fundamental difference that so many people miss. Is like, are you adding, are you adding to someone's load or taking or helping them carry the load? And like
yeah.
the way you did it, you're helping him carry his load. And so it's so easy for him, so much easier for him to say yes in that instance.
Yeah. No, that's 100% true. Another thought I was having this week is like, I remember when I was first like trying to get clients, like grow my freelance business or like agency, whatever you want to call it. Like I was just so concerned, like, because once I started to identify as like a copywriter, like an email list, like manager, for example, I was like, man, like I want to be close to the data. I want to be known as a results guy. Because if I'm not, like, I don't want to have anything. I want to have something to show for what I'm doing, right? And, after years of doing this, like the hindsight, it's like that's super important. I think having results is amazing, but also like as a business owner, one of the best things they can get from you is just to like save them time and take a task off their plate, a burden off their mind. Like that's a huge value in itself, right? Maybe you
Mhm.
get a list or a client who like it doesn't make them that much money for what you do, but like you're saving them like an hour or 2 hours a day. Like and they're gonna keep paying you. So it's a cool thought to have. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, competence is not just about, sorry, retention, like keeping client relationships good, isn't just about your competence at doing the work. You can deliver good work and still
Yeah.
they don't get fired because they don't see like the value in keeping you, or even though it's monetarily it's making sense for them, or they don't find it, or basically they find that working with you doesn't basically lighten their load. But they like the
Yeah.
emotional intelligence part is super important, where it's like they want you around because they feel that you're valuable to their business, and that's
Yeah.
not a rational decision. I mean, there's a numbers part. If your
Sure.
copy doesn't get any sales for them, and like it's dead flat and stale and nothing's happening, yeah, of course you're
Yeah.
going to lose the gig. but just making money for the client is never enough to keep them around long term. What keeps them around long term is that they feel like they trust you and enjoy working with you, as well as you being a valuable asset to their business.
Yeah, 100%. Like I think, well, I think a big thing about life and business and clients is just the energy you bring, right? Like you said, like, for example, you could have a client that technically you make no money for, right? But like if they view you as just a positive source of energy that's saving them time and that's the only value you add, like, and like you're showing up in their Slack channels and being positive and maybe even chipping into other team Slack channels and being like trying to just bring as much value as you can to that relationship, like they take notice of that, right? And energy is a big thing. It's seen, it's felt, it's heard. So I think if you bring good energy, bring a positive mindset to whatever task or project you get, that'll go a long way for sure.
And the other part as well is like in the sort of timeline of a client relationship, there's going to be stuff that works out great, and there's going to be stuff that completely falls flat on its ass. And everyone
Yeah.
who's worked with a client for a period of time has had this. They've had the big win where you're the hero and the client loves you, and then you've also had that other situation where it's a total shit. It's a shit show, and there's like
Yeah.
egg all over your face, and you have to be like, sorry, bro, let's roll the dice again. And the clients
Yeah.
that will roll the dice with you another time after the shit show are the ones who you've built that trust with. That it's not, obviously they want the results, but it's not just about that. They know that you're actually making a real effort and you're genuine in your intentions towards them, and you give it them.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. And I think that's, yeah, I think that's a huge part that like business owners like fearful of, like working with someone who doesn't give a damn. And that somehow like, freelancers have to show the business owners that they'll go the long way with them, right? Like if it doesn't work, or if something helps, like however they pitch their services offer, like, have some sort of backing, whether it is their credibility that they have from, years of experience, or just like something in the offer where it's like, no, like let's get this figured out. I know this can work. Let's get it figured out, just to give them a lot more confidence in signing the freelancer on and stuff. So
Yeah, there's a line to walk, because I've seen both sides. Is like there's people in the industry of this thing where it's results only, and
yeah,
you can treat your clients almost with contempt as long as you're making them plenty of money.
yeah,
And that can work for a while, but the minute things go in a wrong, they go in even a little bit south, those people are going to be like, their backs, people will turn their backs on them pretty quick. And then there's the other side of people who kind of give too much, and
mm,
they actually, to their own detriment, they undercharge. They,
yeah,
they don't basically capture any of the value they deliver, and they say yes to every little demand, and they end up in a situation where they turn their clients, where they attract clients who are tyrants and turn their clients
yeah.
into tyrants because they don't have strong boundaries. So you've got to walk that middle path between the two positions.
No, you're absolutely right. Like it's definitely a dance, and I think, yeah, you probably know it better than I for the people you kind of help and serve as well, John. But yeah, it's like, knowing what your boundaries are, and then knowing what your skill set and your kind of freelance pipeline looks like, right? Because like I would do things way differently if I was just starting out again versus like where I am now, just because of what I know and do. So it's definitely a dance and a fine line for sure.
So at this point, you are writing copy for a couple of people, and where does it go from there? What's your progression look like?
Yeah, I mean, from then I just like get really just sucked in, go all into writing copy. So I think I got up to like, 6 to, I don't know, like 10-ish full-time, you know, clients, writing primarily emails, a lot of Facebook organic copy, doing some ad copy, no scripts at this point. I do that for a while. Like, I feel just like a year of just content copy nonstop, experiencing some burnout, work, like going over the typical roller coaster, like good clients, bad clients, good clients again. Yeah, I did that for a while, and then pretty much like just got better, got more mentors, got closer to data, so I saw what was working, what wasn't, and when to send or say certain things, and vice versa. And then I think like the most recent big spike in my journey or like growth curve was like becoming the CMO for like the Amazon FBA guys that I'm working closely with. Because
Mm-hmm.
that's like, when you're a CMO, you have to touch everything, which I like. You have to have control and like own the outcome for everything. and then you're literally doing everything marketing wise, right? So not just emails anymore, not even like just, playful organic copy, like you're doing the ads, you're doing the VSL, you're doing like any new challenges like events or webinars and such like that. And so, which is kind of where I am today and what I'm doing now.
Okay, so let's talk about that transition, because you've kind of made that seem pretty easy and smooth. But
Okay.
from the point of view of somebody who's maybe writing email copy for clients, or has actually kind of sort of upgraded their skills to where they're managing the list and they see themselves as the kind of complete email marketer, and
Yeah.
they have they have the receipts to prove that, whether they're actually managing the client's whole list, writing the emails, looking after the technical side, looking after the deliverability, and being a genuine sort of revenue generator for their clients.
Yeah.
Still, that's still a long way from being the
Hmm.
CMO of an organization, where there's probably a mix of paid advertising,
Yeah.
organic marketing stuff as well. There's content creation, like there's video, there may be a podcast, there's written content, there's stuff that multiple landing pages, there may be
Yeah.
multiple funnels. There's like, that's a much broader sort of scope of responsibility. So how do you make
Yeah.
that jump?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I didn't make it seem like it was just, oh yeah, just easy, become a CMO.
Do it, bro.
Why aren't you doing it, man? Yeah. But I think like one of the things I kept in the back of my mind for like throughout my freelance career was like, how do I solve the next problem for my clients, right? Like, okay, I'm giving them good emails. I got that dialed in. Like, I get it. They get what they're getting from me. But it's like, okay, what's next, right? And because I was just so big on investing myself, because I saw the data, right? Like, this copywriter invests in this program. He leveled up his skills. He wrote campaigns that won and crushed it. He's getting paid more. He's getting reached out to more. So I just did that. So I think that was like a big learning curve. Like, okay, there's more than just writing this type of copy, for example. And I went all in on increasing my value. So I think it was like, how can I help my clients more? Well, I need to know
Mhm.
more. Like, I need to know more so I can help them more. And then like, what I would often do, like for the clients that are my CMO, like my CMO client right now, I did a lot of things like, there's a lot of times where I'd over deliver for them, right? So I'd write some like, good emails, get that crafted. And it was like, hey, I saw you're posting this organic content. Like, I took a couple posts, wrote them for you, feel free to use, right? And then they do well and like, man, like Chris crushed it for us. That's great. Got a lot of leads, right? It's like, hey, I think you should do like this 2-step post and use this resource, do that. And so I was kind of like a mix of like feeding into like, hey, you should use this. Whereas like, it wasn't that much work for me to give them a little bit of extra stuff. And then also just thinking like in my mentorships or masterminds or whatever, it's like, oh, like this guy, he did a VSL. We should try that. This guy did this type of challenge or live event. We should try that, right? And like, I can help run that for you. I can take that off your plate, and it can give you this result. So I was always kind of thinking like, what's the next problem they're going to solve? How can I add more value to this current role? Especially if I like them. Like everyone I've worked with, I more or less like them. Like good energy, good relationship together. So it's like, how can I serve them more, and how can we grow together?
Awesome. So if I get you right, the client that you're CMO for now, you had that pre-existing relationship, and you were the one who proactively expanded the scope of your responsibilities by suggesting, hey, I can do this for you, or here's something else. So you kind of built your own portfolio within their business.
Exactly. Yeah. And like, I pretty much created that for me. Like I love these guys, and I was like, pretty much was like, hey, I can do this. And they'd ask me sometimes. Once I was giving them stuff, then they would ask me, and then sometimes it'd be free, sometimes it'd be paid. And then it got to a point where like I learned, through a mastermind that we were talking about before this call, like that I could be the CMO for people. And I was like, hey, why don't I save you all this time and like kind of remove this, like the marketing from what you do on a day to day, and help you make way more money, because this is what I'm really good at. That was kind of the pitch. Had a few Zoom calls with them, and then it worked out pretty quickly afterwards. So
Awesome. So you actually leveraged on top of an existing relationship and some trust you built, which I think is a really key thing there. Like, you can't just walk into a company and be the CMO cold,
yeah.
unless you've got, well, if you've been doing it for years and you've got the track record, you got the receipts. But if you're trying to transition into that role, you got to build the trust first before you can put yourself in that seat, right?
Yeah, it's a very big role. Like, and I definitely have grown a lot, like since being in that role. Like there's more than just like, oh, now you have to write or do all sorts of marketing things. Like there's the people and personnel people you have to manage. There's like just internal politics. There's different systems and tech that you have to like coordinate with. It's a lot. Like it's a real like marketing plus like leadership on steroids role for sure.
Awesome. So when you actually came to that role, did they have somebody doing that role? And I'm digging into this because I know
Yeah.
CMO is a topic that a lot of people talk about, and especially
Yeah.
last year. And we can mention the mastermind. It's Alan Sultanic's
Of
mastermind. We were both
course.
members of it because
Yeah.
Alan, I think, pretty much in our space, has been the guy who popularized this idea that actually, the skills you have as a marketer, as a copywriter, like, and it's an evolution of those skills comes from stepping into a CMO role, and he's popularized that
Yeah.
idea a lot over the last 18 months. And it's good, and it's given people who maybe before saw like, see, where do I go from here? Oh, I have to start my own offer. After it's an alternative pathway to more success or to business growth, besides having to say, okay, I'm going to quit my copywriting clients and start my own offer, which is also a great thing to do, but maybe
Yeah.
not necessarily the right thing for everyone, or just not the right timing for everybody. You've got a young
Yeah.
family, so do I. So I get where, like, a lot of times stability and consistency is a really important thing for us, because our kids and wives need stuff all the time.
100%. 100%. Yeah. It's a growing bills.
But yeah, just to kind of come back to it, like, so just about the CMO part, is I'm digging into the details of that, because your client in this instance, was there a CMO before, or was that role not kind of being fulfilled by the founder, and you said, hey, I can take these responsibilities off your desk, and so you don't have to think about it anymore, and you can spend all that time on the stuff you love doing that you're best at instead?
Yeah, it was pretty much that. So there was no one managing that role before. There was definitely a gap, right? And I, I also was working with them on setting up their paid strategy. Like we had a really good YouTube ads guy come in and help get, like him and I, we work closely on the VSL and the ads, and then like the email campaign, like just like building up that paid ads kind of revenue stream. And then so once that kind of got built, it was like, well, hey, like we need to manage it and grow it as well. And so just like a perfect storm for like, hey, how can I hop in and manage that? But yeah, definitely existing relationship, prove myself time and time again, made them a bunch of money. And then it was like, hey, let's make more together, take all this time off your plate. And then that allowed them to do a lot of things like what they love and keep on growing their company. So
Awesome. And I think this is another thing, another opportunity that quite a few copywriters miss at the beginning, is like, you think that you're getting paid to make stuff. And I get it, like, there's a lot of people who are kind of creatively like oriented type of personalities in what we do, but like there's an awful lot of money to be made out of maintaining stuff as well as making stuff,
yeah,
right? Like, it doesn't, your VSL could be great, but it doesn't, it needs to be refreshed regularly. Different needs pieces of supporting copy around it, advertisements, emails, all kinds of, organic posts too. There's all sorts of stuff that needs to keep on feeding into a sales asset like a VSL to keep it relevant and fresh.
that's 100% true. And like, I mentioned the tech stuff before. Like I never thought I'd be doing so much tech work, or just,
Mhm.
I'll try to give an example, but like, yeah, like a lot of my day is calls, looking at the data, and then, working with our tech guy to find out a way to use some software to better optimize the data for our sales team, et cetera. So like I'm always looking at like, cost per lead, cost per call, every like client acquisition system, like paid source, like Facebook, YouTube, and everything, and then trying to make everything work in perfect harmony. And yeah, like you know, I thought before this, yeah, you build it, you do some tweaking, you go on, but no, there's so much ongoing stuff, right? Because you're constantly, you spend more money on ads, right? Then there's different problems with that. There's like the show up rate might drop or alter, right? So you got to look for all these different patterns and how to create the fail safe so things don't break. So yeah, absolutely. I didn't expect that. So it was a very big aha moment for me
Mhm. And
taking this
I'm
role.
guessing, like, having to do this every day, your level of technical proficiency has shot up a lot. But at the outset, you said you weren't the tech guy beforehand. And so,
Yeah.
again, this is another fear point for a lot of people who are more on the creative side. They think that, oh, I won't be able to handle all the tech stuff. But really, if you're working with a couple of people who really know that side and are experts in this, you can be a person who's kind of like the one who, what's the word? It's the person who kind of choreographs the
Mm.
connections between different parts of a business, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Like it's definitely not something to be afraid of. Like it it was a bit scary when I first got into it because we didn't have a designated tech person. Like it was just the CEO, but like we filled that role, got that position built out, and now like I've got an awesome guy, like friend, kind of like supporting me, and like I can tell him what I need, and then like we can work together to create that solution. Yeah, but like I wouldn't be scared, and if anything, like it's the hard stuff like that that makes you a much better marketer, right? So if like I'm a creative, like I did the personality test. I'm creativity is my number one thing.
Hmm.
But like having all that data in front of you, like I'm a much better marketer than I was, a year ago, thanks to like delving into that, knowing how each part of the process works. Because it's one thing just to make a cool, you know, ad campaign, VSL, email kind of automation, but to set up everything so it just flows so smoothly and it just is so congruent with everything you're talking about. I wouldn't be able to do it to the level that I'm doing today without having such a in-depth look at the data.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then with what you do, does that sort of even seep over into the fulfillment side of things, like customer care and how the products are delivered after they've been sold?
Like definitely a little bit, but I try to stay like pretty far away from that. Like obviously I want to make sure like everyone's having a good experience and like we've got a rock solid fulfillment team. I'm trying to think like there's definitely times where like when we're on a team call, we're thinking, okay, but like how does this impact the client? But I can't think of a good example or story right now. But yeah, like that. See, that's another thing though. You have to think about that, right? Sure, your main job is like bringing more customers to the door, but
Hmm.
like having this leadership role, like it's that plus all this like other company organization stuff that really matters. So
Yeah. I mean, if you bring in a bunch of customers and those customers are a bad fit for what the offer is, and they all end up refunding 60 days after they come into the program, suddenly it's
yeah,
like all those sales were for nothing because you're in a worse position than when you started, right?
yeah. Thankfully, our team, like we've got some superstars who like everyone that's like everyone on that team, they love what they do. They love serving their clients. So it all works out really, really well. And we do bring some incredible results. So lucky for me, it hasn't been a headache, right? And it hasn't like hurt conversions type deal. So I'm really, really blessed in that sense, which is good.
Awesome. And now you mentioned that despite having the CMO role, which is a lot of responsibilities, you still actually are able to find time. Oh, and also being a family man as well,
Yeah.
you still have time to still look after a couple of your copywriting clients. How do you manage to fit that all in?
Yeah. And my CMO client is full aware that I have like I told him I had them. And I think I've been with them for over a year now as well. Like just awesome, awesome people. And like I think it's like the better the better you are, the easier it gets, right? So I don't care if they know this because I do give them like really, really good results, but like the time it used to take me to fulfill these clients is way, way shorter because because I know their voice, I know their audience super, super well. Like I still have their best ad. Like I've made their control. It hasn't failed. It's still producing money to this day. So I'm able to do that because it's very, very simple now. I'm in that market. I get it. I know it. Writing for them, following their structure is very simple. So that's why it works.
Okay, dig into that a little bit more, please, because this whole idea of like the time it takes to fulfill is shorter and shorter. What do you do for opera? You got to sit down and I've got like 2 hours now and I've got to write 5 emails for this client so that they've
Mhm.
got stuff to put out this week.
Yeah.
How are you ideating on that in a short space of time?
Well, I feel like it's different than most relationships. So for these people, like they're David and Elle, awesome, love you guys. You guys are amazing. They actually like they send me kind of like a 14-day content schedule and they give me voice notes, right? And so with some clients in the past, I would sit down and do Zoom calls with them like beginning of the month just to get a good idea, to get my brains full of ideas, and I'd write them and take care of everything myself. But these guys, they're very like I'd say they're pretty hands-on in terms of marketing. So they give me almost like the prompts, and then I go and fulfill those. They approve them, and then I send them out to their list. That's pretty much how it works. So that's why it's probably a little bit quicker than maybe other clients.
It's funny how this concept of prompts has just like sunk into everybody's mental model so
Oh
quickly.
my
That's it.
gosh. Yeah, AI is everywhere, man. AI is everywhere.
It's awesome. So do you actually have time to do stuff outside of working? Or are you working your ass off all the time now? Be honest.
I do work really hard. Like my family knows if they want to go golfing, it's like, Chris, I know you're probably working, but like, do you have time to golf this day? But so yeah, like I definitely work hard, but I golf with friends and family. What I'm really lucky to do right now is we now have Wi-Fi at my cottage, which is like a cabin in the woods. If anyone from Canada or not from Canada doesn't know what that is. And so like we've got, it's right on the water on a nice calm lake. And so we'll go up there. I'll still work, but that'll give me time to like fish at night, have a fire, smoke a cigar, hang out with the
Wow,
wife, and just kind of enjoy myself. So
that sounds amazing.
it's a great time, man. You should come over. You
I've got
should.
to get to Canada. It's one of the places I haven't been yet. And it's actually, we're going to be able to do some more travel soon because my wife just got her letter to say she's about to become an Irish citizen in the last few days. So that's
Oh,
huge.
nice. Congrats. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
She's going to get her passport this year. So it's really great to be able to travel a bit more now.
Yeah, that's much better. I got to come to Ireland too because one of like I guess my clients through the CMO guy, like we help kind of get him up. He's in Northern Ireland. I think you might know him actually. I'm not sure, but he's in Northern Ireland. Just hit his 2 Comma Club award. Super
Amazing.
pumped for him. And so yeah, I definitely want to come visit him and see what your place is all about. So
We got a spare room in our place, man. You guys are welcome with us.
I love it, man. We should set that up for sure.
Good. So look, what's the plan for you going forward for the future? Where do you see yourself in the next like 18 to 24 months?
I guess the short answer is just keep on doing bigger and better things. I want to like just I want to break some records. I've had a lot of incredible breakthroughs like in marketing, in copy, and direct response like the last like kind of 2-3 months here, and like seeing those results kind of pour in through my clients has been like super fun. So I want to break some more records, do some incredible things, and help more people become millionaires because I've really like I feel like I've really dialed in my ads, VSL, emails game. So the more I can kind of help do that for our guys and other people, that's kind of want to do. I want to break some records. So
And at this point,
yeah,
you're like at a level of kind of advanced proficiency and in working on live stuff every day, and you get to see, you get to see a very clear results of what your work leads to or the outcomes of your work. At
yeah.
this point, does it still like, do you find that there's still things that you can learn from resources like books, or courses, or mentorships, or coaching programs? Or at this
Yeah.
point, is it actually the doing of the thing which generates all your insight?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that'll never end, right? Like I'm still reading books. I've got 2 books on the go right now. One's like a sales book, and then one's I've got like the old Arnold Schwarzenegger book. But yeah, always reading. I'm in a mentorship program right now. I'm actually like in Troy Erickson's like kind of inner circle type deal, and learn some cool things there. After I got out of Alan Sultanic's mastermind, like full transparency, like my head was so full. So I was like, I just gotta fucking do stuff because he's got so much information in there. But I don't think the learning ever stops. I need to be hearing some good new or just being reminded of stuff, I'd say on a weekly basis to keep my brain juices flowing. Yeah, I don't think it ever stops personally.
So do you actually allocate time for education and learning every week, specifically as part of your week?
Yeah, like so far I got like an hour a week right now set aside for that. And then I try to read like at least 20 minutes a day. Yeah.
Yeah. I like to leave books around the house, like leave something in the toilet, leave something in the
Yeah.
kitchen, just pick up, read a few pages, making some toast, read a page.
Yeah. No, that's precious time, right? The time in between kind of task and doing things. I'm the same way. It's
Yeah.
powerful.
Stick a couple of books in the glove box of the car. If I have to park somewhere and sit for a few minutes, I'll just read a page. It's the
Yeah.
only way, especially, being a parent.
Yeah.
It's like it gets intense, and your kids aren't in school yet. Wait till they
Not
start their
yet.
sports. You're gonna have to dial back up working a little bit when they start doing sports and stuff.
Yeah, I know. I see the writing on the wall. So it's either that or I just, wake up earlier, get more leverage, get more help kind of thing. Because it's all possible. So
Yeah,
yeah,
now's the
man.
time to go hard while they're still little. Uh,
Exactly. Yeah. And I'm very fortunate. Like we've got my wife's family, like they're Italian, very family focused. So like they help it a lot, even my side too. Like we've got great support systems. So like my wife and I were not like alone left with our little one. Like we've got a lot of
mhm.
like babysitters who want to chime in. So it's really helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. We've always had that as well, and it's a huge blessing. We've been very lucky that way.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I don't know how I could survive without it personally.
So, Chris, before we say goodnight, would you like to tell people how to contact you, find, and if they want to know more about you, or just get in touch and have
Yeah.
a conversation?
Yeah, for sure. Like the place where I hang out most is just my Facebook page, like my profile, I guess. So if you just search Chris Zankowicz, I think it's still a profile picture of me and my wife. Like I'm in a blue suit, she's in a white dress. So you can just hit me up there, ask me any questions, and we can chat. So
Cool. I'll stick the link to that in the video description as well.
yeah.
So,
Well, awesome,
thank
John.
thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate having this conversation with you and you sort of sharing your journey and your
Yeah.
insights on what it takes to go from being copywriter to being a CMO and actually taking on that higher level of responsibility for managing a bigger business, which is great. Not too many people have had to share that kind of information with me yet. So it's really going to be
Mm.
valuable for some people to watch this.
I love it. Well, yeah, I'm happy to share. Thanks for inviting me on this, man. I love chatting with you. And yeah, I appreciate the time, man.
Okay, I'm going to stop the recording now. Thank you, Chris.
Sounds good. Thank you.